Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. It's so amazing to hear from so many amazing women, and kicking off with Melinda Gates. I think it's going to set the stage for our conversation today. And I really want to thank Sharisse and the Allstate Foundation. The work that they're doing is so incredible on financial abuse. And so we're going to get into it with some questions. But really just want to say that financial abuse affects 1 in 4 women. It affects all of us in this room, whether it's someone you know, whether it's an employee, whether it's someone in your community. And so I think this conversation is really for all of us. And Sharisse is going to help guide us through this a little bit and tell us about it. So from your perspective, Sharisse, what is financial abuse and how does it show up?
So financial abuse occurs when one partner limits, controls, or restricts another partner's ability to access, use, or accumulate financial resources. And this can look like a variety of things, including job interference, monitoring spending excessively, imposing an allowance without consent, hiding assets or financial documentation or other identifying information. Could also include coerced debt. So those are just some of the things. There's lots of ways that it shows up, but those are a few of the more common ones.
And as I mentioned, it really does affect every leader in this room. So give us some insight in terms of what can we do? What can everyone in this room do, whether it's, again, as I mentioned, part of your community or within your own company or helping your colleagues? Like, give us some practical tips.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that financial abuse happens in 99% of domestic violence cases. So almost everyone who experiences domestic violence also experiences financial abuse, but only 3% of Americans really recognize financial abuse as a form of domestic violence. So that's why conversations like this one are so important, because it's a hidden form of abuse, but the impacts are profound. Survivors say that the lack of access to financial resources is their #1 barrier to safety. They say they only have $175.50 they can access without their harm doers' interference. So often we hear the phrase when survivors do come forward, people say, why don't they just leave? Well, if you only had $175.50, where are you going? It's not going to be very far. Mm-hmm. And really digging back into that 1 in 4 statistic and 1 in 7, if we all think about the fact that 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. And for everybody in this room to take a minute to think about the number of employees you have in your respective workplaces. If you can picture that number in your head, and then imagine or understand, think about the number of women that comprise that number in your workplace. So if you have the number of women in your workplace, now divide that number by 4. That's the number of survivors you have in your workplace right now, whether you know it or not. In a room like this, there's around 400 people approximately that are here in person today. That means, statistically speaking, there are 100 survivors among us right now. And so to your point, it affects all of us. It's not someone far away someplace else. It's that woman on the other side of the Zoom call. It's the person down the hall, maybe even the person in the corner office. It could be your neighbor, your sister, your friend, your kid's teacher, your classmate. It could be the woman to the right of you or the left of you, or maybe it's you. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to understand that there is a role for us all to play. There's a role for employers to play, friends, family. The support is available, and we want to be supportive. And the workplace really creates a unique environment where the cycle of abuse can be disrupted. Because if we know that most people who experience domestic violence experience financial abuse, and survivors say the lack of access to resources is their #1 barrier to safety, then the workplace can also be a place where we can disrupt that and can be a safe haven for survivors. And so 8 million workdays every year are lost due to domestic violence.
So that's the price.
That's the price of the silence, yes. 8 million workdays every year. And so that productivity that's lost and also the impact on culture and environment is really significant.
So you talk about breaking this cycle, and I think, for all of us here in the room, it affects so many people that it's unseen, it's unheard. And I really am so moved sincerely by what Allstate is doing. They've been at this work for 2 decades and invested over $100 million into domestic violence. And I know, right? And we hear about this, and Melinda was speaking about their incredible work in women's health. I mean, this is so powerful that Allstate is doing this and committing to it. And I just want to talk a little bit about Sharisse's background because it's so interesting. She probably doesn't want to talk about herself, but I am going to put you on the spot. Sharisse came from the Attorney General's office in Illinois. And to me, it's so, again, I applaud Allstate for doing this work, bringing someone in from the public sector that had such intimate knowledge of what these survivors are going through, answering hotlines, dealing with this through COVID. And again, that the private sector is really learning from the public sector, which is kind of unusual. You usually hear about it the other way. So tell us a little bit about that and how you got there.
Yeah, well, I've really been passionate about working with domestic violence since I was in law school. I worked for a domestic violence clinic that supported survivors who were in jail for killing their abusers, which is the #1 reason why women who are incarcerated are incarcerated. And so we were providing defense, appeal support for them. And so really from that experience, I've had lots of different, like many of you probably here, very circuitous professional journey, tried lots of different things, ended up at the Attorney General's office in Illinois, leading the Crime Victim Services Division, where we did a lot of direct service to survivors, but also of all kinds of crime, including domestic violence, and also provided grants. So really, what it gave me was a survivor-led and trauma-informed approach, which I've definitely carried over into how we approach the work at the Allstate Foundation. We really listen to what survivors say they need, what survivors say they want, and survivors have said the workplace is a place where they could really be benefited from having things like paid time off, for having workplace accommodations, like I talked about, the job interference. If somebody who's a harm doer is coming to the job, sending threatening emails, disrupting the workplace, an employer can easily implement a policy so that the survivor knows I can tell my manager, or I can go to an HR designated person, and they can give me a flexible schedule or change my hours so that harm doer doesn't know where I am all the time. Or paycheck advancement. That's something that we've implemented at Allstate, where a survivor can say, this is an emergency, I need an advancement on my pay. They can accumulate more than the 175, right? Then they can have access to more resources that they can go and be safe and thrive. And I think, similar to what Melinda Gates was saying earlier around, we need to be healthy in order to do the things we want to do, and we have to also be safe. Safety is a part of that health, and we can't thrive if you're not safe. And so there's lots of small things that employers can do and businesses can do to help their survivor employees feel safe and to feel supported. And some of them don't cost anything, but the impact on those survivors' lives is tremendous.
And as we're seeing return to work, are we seeing improvements that COVID probably set us back in ways on this? Is coming back to the office helping? Are we seeing signs of improvement?
Well, it kind of depends, because during times of COVID, the rates of domestic violence increased because people now are at home with their harm doer all the time. So when you're at the workplace now, it is in some ways better as long as that workplace is safe. And I think there's always opportunities for things to be improved and to make sure that people have safety plans and they know the different measures that every workplace has in terms of safety, but also the remote work gives you flexibility. It can give the ability to work at a different location, maybe at a different space, in different hours, so that you can kind of have more autonomy to get the help that you need, so that you can kind of secure your place in the future.
And so talk to us too a little bit. I know you've worked these hotlines. If you go to the Allstate Foundation site, you will see right there, the hotline is there for you to call. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how that is just life-changing for these survivors right now.
Yeah, so the National Domestic Violence Hotline is one of our partners. We have 12 national domestic violence organizations that we partner with and support and invest in them as they support survivors. And that's one key way that employers can also and businesses can also help this issue. And the hotline, it's really a harrowing but important service. If people are on the line, help is available 24/7, 365 for a survivor, for a supporter of a survivor, family member, friend, to really get the help you need. And it's not an easy job, but it's an important one, and one that they all take very seriously. And having the opportunity to listen to those calls and hear those stories really brings the message home that this work is not just nice to do, it's vital to do, and people's lives are literally being saved because of the work that these amazing advocates are doing and nonprofits across the country.
Yeah. Well, again, I really just want to thank Allstate Foundation. It's incredible work. Spread the word so that either your employer or colleagues, family members, that their companies can take this incredible example. And thank you for all the good work you do. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much.